Prime Minister-designate Mustafa Adib did not present his cabinet lineup to President Michel Aoun Monday as had been widely expected, saying instead that he held consultations with the head of state over the formation process. Premier Adib's French-backed efforts to form a new government had hit a major obstacle over the past 48 hours. The Prime Minister-designate, meanwhile, has been pushing to rotate the leadership of the Finance, Defense, Interior and Foreign Ministries among the main sects. The United States and Iran will face off at the UN's top court on Monday in the latest round of a battle over sanctions on Tehran reimposed by President Donald Trump. Tehran dragged Washington to the International Court of Justice in The Hague in 2018 after President Donald Trump pulled the US out of a landmark international nuclear deal with Iran. They will argue over the coming week about whether the court, set up after World War II to deal with disputes between UN member states, actually has jurisdiction in the case. Japan's ruling party votes Monday for its next leader, with top government advisor Yoshihide Suga all but certain to win and replace Shinzo Abe as the country's new prime minister. Chief Cabinet Secretary Suga is heavily tipped to win the Liberal Democratic Party ballot, with parliamentary vote Wednesday set to elevate him to the country's top job. Even before he formally announced his run, the 71-year-old had won the support of key factions within the ruling party, with his candidacy viewed as promising stability and a continuation of Abe's policies. President Donald Trump held a Nevada campaign rally at an indoor venue on Monday, despite public health professionals' warnings against large indoor gatherings during the COVID-19 pandemic. President Trump, a Republican, railed against his Democratic rival, former Vice President Joe Biden. People in the crowd were seated close together and many did not wear masks. The president's campaign portrayed the rally at a large warehouse in Henderson as an opportunity for supporters to exercise their rights to peaceful assembly under the U.S. Constitution's First Amendment. The World Health Organization has recorded a record one-day rise in the number of new coronavirus infections, with 307,930 reported over 24 hours. The agency said that deaths rose by more than 5,500, bringing the global total to 917,417. The biggest increases in infections were reported in India, the US and Brazil. Worldwide, there have been more than 28 million confirmed cases, half of which have been in the Americas. The Federal Health Ministry said on Monday India has recorded 92,071 new cases of the coronavirus, taking the total cases to 4.85 million. The world's second most populous country lags only the United States globally in overall number of infections, but it has been reporting more daily cases than the US since mid-August. Deaths have been relatively low so far compared with the number of infections, but are seeing an uptick. More than 1,100 people died of COVID-19 in the last 24 hours, the ministry said, taking the total number of fatalities from the disease to 79,722. COVID-19 restrictions are being reimposed in Indonesia's capital, Jakarta, for at least 2 weeks amid an increase in the number of new coronavirus cases. Government offices and private companies outside of essential sectors, such as health, Food and Communications will have to implement work-from-home policies. No more than 25% of employees will be allowed to work in the office at the same time. According to news reports, businesses in essential sectors as well as public transportation will be allowed to operate at 50% capacity. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia will partially lift its suspension of the international flights from Tuesday, the Interior Ministry said, 6 months after travel curbs were imposed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The kingdom will end all restrictions on air, land and sea transport for Saudi citizens after January 1st of next year. The ministry reported, adding that an exact date will be announced in December. The ministry said in a statement Gulf citizens and non-Saudis with valid residency permits or visas will be allowed to enter the kingdom from Tuesday as long as they are not infected with the virus. South Korea has reported its lowest daily coronavirus tally in about a month as it began easing its tough social distancing rules in the Greater Seoul area. The Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency says the 109 new cases added in the past 24 hours took the country's total to 22,285, with 363 deaths. It's the 12th consecutive day for South Korea's daily jump to stay in the 100s. The 109 additional cases are also the lowest daily tally since mid-August. Authorities in Melbourne arrested more than 70 people for flouting stay-at-home orders to protest against lockdown restrictions on Monday, with some demonstrators clashing with riot police at a market in the city. About 250 people attended the protest, the second in as many days in the city, promoted by coronavirus conspiracy groups on social media. The demonstrators ignored official warnings and public health orders to gather at the central Queen Victoria Market, calling for an end to a weeks-long lockdown of Australia's second biggest city. New Zealand will lift coronavirus restrictions across the country on September 21st, except in its biggest city, Auckland, which is the epicenter of the second wave of infections. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said Auckland's restrictions would be reviewed next week. She also said it was decided to immediately ease all physical distancing requirements on planes and other public transport. The Premier added masks will still be mandatory on all public transport. New Zealand, a nation of 5 million, appeared to have succeeded in halting community transmission of COVID-19. The death toll from wildfires that have ravaged the United States West Coast has risen to 33 as the National Weather Service has issued a red flag warning amid high winds and dry conditions in Oregon and some California counties. Authorities said the conditions are expected to contribute to a significant spread of new and existing fires amid days of blazes across the states of California, Oregon, and Washington that have destroyed neighborhoods and forest land, leaving barren and gray landscapes the size of New Jersey. At least 10 people have been killed in the past week throughout Oregon. Officials have said more people are missing from other blazes and the number of fatalities is likely to rise.